Pippin is very heavy.
Mary is not so heavy.
Today we're talking about Pippin games, heavy games. Is this a ploy to put dogs so you'll keep watching? Yes.
Keep watching the video.
You're so heavy. Oh God, you're so heavy. Oh, I gotta put him down, Mike. Mike, we're talking about heavy games.
Woo! The heaviest games that we enjoy and stuff.
They're from the same litter.
You know,
it makes no
sense. The same dogs, but it's the same thing that like Ube can make Bonanza and then like Caverna.
True.
The same, you know, the same person can produce different
that's
things.
An interesting list, like some weird flip-flop list like that.
Ooh, a designer's heavy list.
No, today we're talking about heavy games. We're talking about, and this is heavy games, I guess to us, as I'm sure someone watching this will be like, those games aren't heavy. But like, these are our games.
It's a nice thing to always remember that these lists and everybody's lists are subjective lists. They're to people's tastes. If we don't name your game, it's because we probably don't like that game or we simply haven't played it. There's tens of thousands out there. So before you get mad, Anachrony ain't gonna be on this list. We haven't played it enough, sorry. Moving on, we do have 10 other great games, probably better than Anachrony, honestly.
I don't know about that. So nonetheless, this is gonna be 10 heavy games. Over on our Patreon, we're gonna have 10 more heavy games that we enjoy. So make sure to check out our Patreon if you haven't already.
Become a patron today to get more lists and stuff, and you also help pay for the studio.
That's true. So thank you so much. Let's get into our top 10. On number 10, and actually on number 9 too, we're gonna be something we don't do very often, where it's only gonna be a game that one of us has played. So number 10 is gonna be the game that I've played that I really like, although I am sure Mike will love this game, which is why it's gonna make the list. This is Deal with the Devil.
I'm very jealous that I have not played this. This is probably the top of my want to play list.
Yeah, fair. So Deal with the Devil is a big, heavy Euro game with some kind of hidden role stuff going on.
Yeah.
Where it's a 4-player only game. You can only play it 4 players.
Already a flex.
Already a flex. And it's a hidden role game where one player is going to play the devil, one player is going to play a cultist, and then the other players are going to play just people, just normal people.
As always in these games, there's always just like, you're a townsfolk.
You're a townie.
Trying to build a city. But that's literally what they're doing.
Indeed. And everyone's trying to score points. And most of your points are going to be coming through these building cards that you're going to put out. So there's some resource management. But where the heaviness comes from in this game is really in all the hidden roles, and honestly, there's a lot of rules in this game. It's just a very rules-heavy game, and this is also a tough game because you can't tell people your roles, so you also can't really ask questions. So this is a game, especially the first couple times you're gonna play it, is going to like break your mind because you're kind of like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, and I also can't ask what's going on because then people will know that I'm the cultist or whatever. But nonetheless, everyone is a role, and in every round of the game, you're going to be putting stuff into a chest, into this little chest here, and you're going to be essentially offering something and ask for something back.
Kind of a trading game. It's not an auction game, but
no,
bidding,
it's kind of like a hidden trading.
Yeah.
Hidden trading,
with
not
a hidden trader.
Traitor, indeed. So the devil wants to collect souls. The cultist wants to get rid of their souls, and then the mortals, for the most part, just want a ton of resources. So the devil,
capitalist pigs, you know.
The devil will say, "Hey, give me a piece of your soul. I'll put in my little thing that say, hey, I want a piece of soul, and I will give you all of these things." And so I put all the stuff that I'm willing to give away for it, and the devil's given a ton of resources into the box, and then if someone, these are then just scanned by an app and then given out randomly, and then whoever gets it, they open up and go, ooh, I know this is the devil's thing because they're asking for my soul, but man, look how many resources. So they go, okay, I'm willing to do that. And so then they take out the resources, put in a piece of their soul, and then close it back. And then eventually that'll make its way back to me, the devil. And
one of the dogs is possessed right now.
One of the dogs is attacking
they're getting into the theme. If you can hear them, they are fighting to the death.
So now as the devil, I now have a piece of soul, which is really, really good for me.
Delicious.
And so that's what you're doing. You're doing these like hidden kind of trades, and you're offering stuff and being like, ooh, I don't know if it's worth a piece of my soul. And the devil's trying to gather soul, and the cult's trying to give their soul away. And the mortals are trying to like keep some of their soul, but like not all of it because you do want all these things.
Souls is points.
And you're getting these resources and you're putting these buildings into play. So there's all these different mechanisms, all these different wheels turning at the same time. You're trying to keep track of it all and also trying to not, especially if you're like the devil, the cultist, trying to not get found out. There's a bit of social deduction, but the social deduction part of this game is not a big part of the game.
Yeah.
Case in point, when we played it, I was the devil. I got found out as the devil halfway through the game, and I still won. So it's not the end of the world, because I could still make really good deals being like, hey, you know I'm the devil. You know I'm trying to get your soul. But here's the thing. here's all this stuff I can give you. It's really heavy, really interesting, really, really different. It's really fun. It's number 10. I cannot wait to play it with Mike. It'll happen.
Because it's 4-player only, it's hard to table, but I'm like, we have to find a way.
Yeah.
We have to find any way. That's number 10, Deal with the Devil. Let's get to number 9. Number 9 is the game that I've chosen that I've played that you haven't played.
I want to play it so bad.
And so these are also down here at the bottom of the list for this reason.
Yes.
Because I imagine this game for me would be higher ultimately. This is Gaia Project.
Yeah.
So Gaia Project is, we have only recently begun to delve into the Terra Mystica extended universe.
The Terra Mystica verse.
The Mysticaverse.
Yeah,
the Mystical verse.
Mystical verse.
Mystical.
Yeah, sure.
I think Mystical's been canceled, actually.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's a good guy.
Probably not.
So Gaia Project is one that I've always wanted to try.
Yeah.
We always have been more interested thematically, and this still holds true, in Terra Mystica.
Yeah.
But Gaia Project is a follow-up to Terra Mystica, which takes all the kind of mechanisms from Terra Mystica, adds some stuff. Kind of, it's 2.0, so they've smoothed some stuff out. They've there's more tech tracks and more kind of levers to pull and things like that. So I've always been really interested in these games, and I finally got a chance to try Gaia Project.
You played it a bunch on BGA and in real life, too.
I've played it a billion times since then.
You really
It's so good. It's so incredibly good. Now, this game, for me, really falls into the heavy category because there's a lot of potential bottlenecks with your resources and things, and then it all comes down to you have this kind of board that is space and all these planets and stuff. You're going to have a faction that is sort of has like a home planet type that you are accustomed to living in, and you can kind of go and terraform as you go to places, different planet types and stuff. Some of them will be a little more closely related to your home planet. Again, that's the kind of Terra Mystica thing. You have like a biome that you can like live in. It's habitable to you. It's the same thing here. And this game is heavy to me because you see, before you select your factions and all that stuff, you see what all the current round bonuses are. So you get bonus points for building certain types of things usually within a given round. You see what the end of game bonuses are, which I think if you get first place are like 18 points, is a massive dump of points.
Yeah.
You see what all that stuff is. You see the layout of the board, where which planets are adjacent to which others, how far things are spaced apart, all that kind of stuff, before you select your faction. Now, different factions are all asymmetric. They're going to have different strengths, different kind of things that they can do and they can focus on. And depending on what the end of round goals are, the end of game goals, you might want to have one faction over the other. There might be a faction that's going to be really perfect. Like that first game, 2 of the rounds had to do with like terraforming, colonizing Gaia planets, the green planets and stuff like that. So I chose the Terrans because they like get a head start on being able to transform planets to Gaia planets and stuff like that. And so I was able to really maximize based on the end of game and end of round bonuses. And so it's really fun to be able to try to pick like a really perfect first, your faction choice, your first places you place your first couple of mines on the board. So you want to kind of be near people and how you're going to build out from there. And it's just really fun to try to like learn how to get better at this game. Yeah. So from there, you're building out buildings, and then all the sort of stuff where things come off your board. If you build a mine, you're going to uncover some amount of income. You're going to be uncovering ore that you produce every round. Yeah. But then as you go and build trade stations from there, you're going to replace the mine. The mine goes back on your player board. Yeah. So we played Terra Nova, which is sort of a newer game that is kind of an intro into these types of games. Kind of set in the Terra Mystica world as well, and so it's the same thing in there, but it's just, I don't know, there's just so much fun stuff to explore. You're trying to eke out as much as you can out of a round, and this is definitely one of those games that you can get much better at as you play more.
Yeah, if you're playing for the first time, you're going to get smashed, because it's like so much of it is like...
I mean, I won my first game.
Indeed.
I might have lucked into it a little bit. I
really want to try Gaia Project. Really want to try Terra Mystica, all of them, basically. Just haven't gotten around to it. We finally got to borrow Gaia Project, so hopefully we've been trying to find a time the last couple of weeks
to play right after we film.
Man, I wish we could. I really wish we could.
We'll play right now.
But that's Gaia Project number 9. Let's get number 8.
Number 8 is Ark Nova.
Yeah.
This is, the zoo to end all zoos.
It is. I know. I'm excited the new expansion is about to come out, too. I'm very excited. But Ark Nova is a game, where you're building out a zoo, and it's kind of got a lot of elements from a lot of different games. Yeah. And with that, you're kind of keeping track of a lot of stuff and trying to, again, it's one of the things that if you've played all these games, you might be able to pick up Ark Nova relatively quickly because it's got some like engine building like terraforming Mars. You're placing out kind of tiles onto your board, which are enclosures. And it's just got a lot of engine building stuff. It's got a really cool action selection system where basically wherever your 5 action cards are in a line, that's how powerful they are. And then when you use one, it moves down to power level 1, essentially, then everything slides up. And so it's this interesting situation of something that we always like in games of like kind of the sunk time theory where it's just like
sunk cost theory,
or whatever it's called, but nonetheless, where it's like if you invest time and basically you wait for this thing to get bigger and bigger and bigger, you then can do a lot more, but you might want to do it now. So there's always that balance of like, should I wait and do some other stuff so this can get to a power level that makes it more good at what it does, or not. And then there's all the engine building and stuff like that, and there's a lot going on in this game. And I really, really like Ark Nova, and so do other people too, because it's very high on the top 100 list. Yeah. And the top 100 list, that does tend to skew pretty heavy. And so, yeah, Ark Nova, it's just good. It's just clean. It's just smooth.
It's really smooth. I love how fast the individual turns can be. It's not a quick game. But
no.
I like that, you take your turn, you're doing some stuff, getting some cards, playing some cards, doing sponsorship action, and trying to find like the most kind of combo-tastic stuff you can with those different cards, and then build up, and then really start hitting those conservation. Once you have some, a lot of the conservation stuff you'll need to have certain tags, certain types of animals, certain
stuff to build up to,
certain things to build up to. And then you can start hitting those and stuff. It's just super fun. It's a great theme. We love the theme.
Yeah, it's cool.
Especially because like it does focus so heavily on the conservation, which I think like a lot of
good
zoos these days
do,
which is a beautiful thing. And yeah, it's just really freaking fun.
Yeah, that's all you need to know.
That's all it is. So cannot wait for that expansion material. It seems like it's gonna add some really cool stuff. There's like asymmetric action cards that we have that are different. I'm like, I don't even know.
I know, it's gonna get even better.
Yeah, can't wait.
That's Ark number 8. Let's get number 7. Number 7 is going to be Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Rippable merch.
This and Scholars of the Saga Tigris are definitely the heaviest of the Garfield games.
They feel crunchiest.
Although apparently some of their games now are coming out, they're going to be even like heavier, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go. Paladins of the West Kingdom has got a bunch of stuff. It's just, man, there's so much stuff to do because there's so many options and so many kind of routes you can go because you are essentially building, you have a board that has all these pieces on it, and you can put all these pieces out on the kind of main boards, and each action you're doing with your workers is going to require some kind of thing, some kind of attribute like influence, strength, faith, but then it's going to boost another attribute. So they're never boosting the same thing. So there's this really tough balance that you have to have in Paladins of the West Kingdom, or if you want to do this thing right here that takes a lot of strength, that action is not going to give you strength. So you need to be doing other stuff that gives you strength so that you could do that. But then that thing isn't going to require strength either. So you have to, it's like this weird puzzle that you have to do. It's just, it's tough. It's really fun though.
There's always actions that are sort of inverses of each other. So one might require influence and give you strength. There'll be one that gives you that requires strength and gives you influence. And so you kind of want to focus on.
You focus like 2 of them mostly.
Working at two of them, and then maybe a third thing that you can kind of do as you can. But yeah, I agree. Like it's another one. A lot of these games I think come down to like you're really trying to eke out everything you can possible out of every round, using those workers, using your resources. How do you make sure every turn you take is something that is a positive, like a step forward toward your goal? Yeah. And a lot of the things, it's like, if you're taking off your little garrisons and stuff, you don't start scoring points for those until you've done that a lot.
Like 4 times.
You really have to invest heavy into the areas you're investing in.
Yeah, this is one of those games where when you're teaching new people, it's like you need to choose something and do that. You can't doing a little bit of everything will do nothing. It won't do anything for you. And then on top of that, to activate all these actions, you kind of have like a bag building thing going on because you have to put down workers on them.
Yeah, you'll have a pool of workers.
A pool of workers. And so you also need to make sure you're getting those workers to put down the correct actions you want to do. Yeah. And then there's just like end game scoring cards you can kind of go for with the King's Orders and stuff like that. And there's just which paladins to use. There's so many different things going on in this game.
There's a lot of stuff interlocked.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. But yeah, it's of the Garfield games particularly, it's definitely one of the heavier ones.
It definitely melts the brain.
Yeah.
It definitely melts the brain because, there's just a lot of different little things to consider. Now with the expansion, I really appreciate because it feels like it opens things up
a
just
little
bit, but it also gives you more choices.
Do,
so it's like,
gosh.
And a fourth attribute to work on to boot. That is Paladins of the West Kingdom. We love it. We love the direction Garphill's going. They just did a talk recently. They're saying they're not trying to make like heavier and heavier games,
kind of happens.
but it just has drifted into heavier style of games that are also really freaking fun to play. That's
really good.
We're on a top 10 list, Nick. They're all going to be really freaking fun.
They are really good again.
But yeah, this one will melt your brain a little bit.
A little bit.
Nick, why do you like being a bad person so much?
I don't know. It's just fun.
Nick, number 6 is a Nick special. This is Prodigal's Club.
I do love it. I like Prodigal's Club more than we both like it, but it's one of my favorite games.
It's maybe it might be the best theme still ever.
It's so much fun.
It might always just be that.
This is a Vladimir Suki game who makes a lot of heavier games. Really, a lot of them could have been on this list. We chose this one
because a lot
because
of tight resource
I
management
do feel like
games.
this is the heaviest of the ones that at least that we play. But Prodigal's Club is a game where you are trying to be basically the biggest D-bag you possibly can. You're trying to lose all your friends, lose all your money, and lose an election.
I think you know what it is, man? We hit on this. We were talking about Last Will, which is you can actually tie into this game. I think this game is like you've been rich so long, you're bored with life, and so you're just trying to create drama to have excitement.
To have something interesting going in life, because your life is so easy.
So you're trying to just destroy your life.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, that's what you're doing. So there's these 3 parts of the game. Losing election, losing friends, losing money. And at the end of the game, whichever is your highest score in those, which is a bad thing, you want no score. You want as low a score as possible. Whatever essentially is your worst score in the 3 of those, that's your score for the game. There's no like adding them together. Nope, it's just whatever one you did the worst in, that's your score. So talk about Paladins where you have to like focus on like 1 or 2 things. This one, you have to do everything.
Yes.
And there's only 5 rounds in the game. And so this is one of those games where inevitably, halfway through the game, you will have a meltdown. You will be like, there's no way I can do all the things I need to do. But here's the thing, by the end of the game, you end up doing all the things. You end up having like, your score is like 3. You end up having a pretty good game, but halfway through the game, your mind is so melted and you're so overwhelmed by, you just know you're not going to be able to do everything you need to do.
You feel like you haven't gotten anywhere. And like what you're doing is you're building up a roster of cards that you can tap every round and stuff like that. We're going to get sued for that.
That's not a lawsuit anymore.
Oh, thank God. Tap-a-roo. Okay. So you're building up towards something, but it really does feel dire.
But again, there's so many synergies amongst those cards that you need to work well to be able to do things well.
Yeah.
You do not want a wasted turn. You only have a couple actions per round. You only get 5 rounds. It's really hard.
Do you have 3 actions, 3 workers, maybe?
I think so. But then you can also use your cards and stuff like that. But
I mean,
it's a very tight game. There's a lot of Vladimir Suki games are very, very tight resources, very tight
That's the trademark, I'd say. Combo-tastic, bonuses, tight resources.
Yeah, and this game is really heavy, but the good thing is this game has a really light theme because, and it helps you get through the heaviness of the game because you're like, oh, this is so hard. But you're like, oh, but look what I'm doing is so silly.
It's funny.
That it really makes you, it really kind of keeps you going. Dungeon Pets is a game that we talk about a lot that's a very heavy game that has a really light theme that kind of keeps you going through like the brutality of the game. This game has a similar thing. And Prodigal's Club is just so much fun. It's so weird, but it's a tough, heavy game.
Yeah, it's man, when in doubt, this is why theme test is so important because that theme, like you said, will carry you through so much that you're having too much fun to really stress over the rules overhead and the choice overhead. You can... because no matter what you do, it's like, oh, I got drunk in the park again. That's fun and funny, and it keeps you going. And it makes this game so much more accessible in a brilliant way. And it's still an incredibly original theme. Just ruin your reputation, lose an election. Who knows? Blackberry's just got a great brain. So that's number 6, Prodigal's Club. Let's get to number 5.
Number 5, I think a lot of people, this will be their entire list. This is how we know we're
freaking heavy gamers, dude.
This is Kanban EV.
Yeah, baby.
We've started getting into Vita Lacerda games. We got a couple. We have Weather Machine on here, which could have made the list. But we decided to go with Kanban because you definitely like it more than Weather Machine, and I think I will end up liking it more than Weather Machine. But this is a game where you are working in a car factory, and you are building out cars. You are getting car parts. You are building those cars. Doing design, doing tests to try to make them better, upgrading those cars. Like now this one's got a really cool like drivetrain part of it.
Yep.
And you are doing those things and trying to basically make the most points. And you do that again, doing all of those things, but there's just such a weird way that the whole thing works together because it's kind of linear where it's like,
yes.
If you want to make a car, you have to have a car design first, because else what are you making? But you want that design to be upgraded or have an upgrade if you can, because then that's going to be better. But then you have to go get car parts to get cars from the assembly line out onto the racetrack. So you're like doing these kind of linear things.
There's a flow to it.
And there's only 5 places to go in the game. There's only like more or less like, is it 5 or 6 actions you can do?
It's 5 or 6 because there's the administration action. But I think there's 4 departments. There's design.
And you can do multiple things at those things, but it's
spaces.
not that complicated in terms of like rules, but then the decisions just get so tough, especially because of Sandra.
Sandra is your boss. Sandra is out here making sure that you do your job good. And
Which
Sandra
is her job, to be
runs
fair.
a tight ship.
She does.
All right, we're on the leading edge of innovation over here. And so if Sandra's going to be going from department to department in a very linear fashion.
Yes.
And whatever department Sandra is in today, she's going to look at who has the least training in that area and then going to do a little bit of a performance review on you. And for example, it always comes down to like you need to have 3 or more of a thing, depending on which department, to not get punished. But if you like, you know, she's up in R&D and you don't have, I think, 3 cars in your garage, which at the start of the game you will not.
No, you will not.
You're going to lose a victory point for sure. And then for every break token you have that is in
bank shifts,
you know, or bank shift, sorry, less than 5, you're going to lose additional points and stuff. So, you know, because she's like, what are you doing? You know, you're not grinding it out here at work.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of monitor where Sandra's going to be, how you've performed. You know, are you ahead in trainings that no one's looking at you? Because you're like, I just did training, I'm good. I did a seminar just last week. I'm cool, Sandra. Don't look at me. And so you're dealing with this boss, and you kind of will get to a point where you probably
she won't become as much of an issue.
It becomes less of an issue as you go. So it's kind of a fun thing to have to kind of get over. You know, it's like, okay, let's get up to work, and it really does make you feel like I gotta be getting going. You know, I can't be wasting my time, which is just fun. I actually really like it. You can play with a nicer version of Sandra where rather than punish, whoever's basically doing the best in that area will be rewarded, and I like that they make that option for you.
Which is nice because it's tough. It really is. You're like because
you will lose some points early.
You're just gonna have it, and then you're putting out these meeting cards, which is me scoring cards that are happening. Yep. And so you're also trying to kind of like work towards those. Like, oh, I want to make sure I have this, so I can score this card.
There's certain things at the end of the game that will score, so you can kind of be working on those throughout the entire game. Like, okay, I'm gonna want to hit that one.
Yeah, it's just there's just a lot going on, as there are in all Vita Lacerda games. And Kanban right now is kind of our favorite, and it's just been really, really fun to explore. But these are, again, big, heavy games that are there's a lot going on, and they break your brain a little bit.
Just a lot of it.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Great Western Trail, Argentina. You could do any Great Western Trail, but Argentina, to us, has a little bit more going on.
Yes, there's more going on,
that
for sure.
makes it a little bit more brain fry-y.
Yes.
Great Western Trail, in general, is a game where you are going to be herding cattle. You're herding cattle, and you're trying to ultimately... It's a hand management game. You're trying to get a hand of diverse cattle cards. You don't want to have a bunch of the same cow. You want to have a diverse range of cattle. Their breeding value will be more powerful as a result because they're going to be healthier, happier cows.
Yep.
And you want to, in this one, get to Buenos Aires with a bunch of different cattle, which will give you more value. You get more money for that diverse hand of cattle. And then you're going to ship them off. And in this one, in the original Great Western Trail, they're hopping on a train going off to different cities, kind of from Kansas City, off to different towns around America. Here, they're actually heading on ships and going to Europe.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. That kind of plays into some of the things that make this a little heavier. And there's various buildings around the track that you're kind of going. It's a big rondelle. You're going to go to Buenos Aires, and you're going to go back to the start, and you're going to go and hit that loop again and again. But you're stopping off at various buildings along the way, and making use of actions. A lot of them are going to allow you to discard a card from your hand, get a little bit of money, and then build buildings, get additional workers, buy more cattle, things of that nature, get objective cards, and so on and so forth. Where this one becomes a little heavier than Great Western Trail for us is in Great Western Trail, you will ship off your cattle, get your new hand of cards, and then you rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
With this one, they're going to go onto a ship, but then those ships aren't going to go anywhere just
yet. They go off like in fleets.
Yeah, they go off in fleets at 3 different key points in the game. As you're adding employees to the kind of little side part of the board, you're gonna trigger parts where all of the teal ships, I can't remember the order, the teal ships will just then ship off to Europe.
Yeah.
So there's a timing element where like I need to make sure I get back to Buenos Aires one more time because I haven't got onto this one teal ship. And once those ships leave, they're gone. And then your little discs that you've deployed to those ships go over to one of 3 cities over in Europe. You have like Rotterdam and Le Havre and
Liverpool, I think,
and Liverpool. And then you'll have an additional ability every time you kind of complete a loop in the future to move one of those discs into a different key of the city, which are going to give you more endgame points, money, and things like that. And you're using your new resource of grain to kind of facilitate that because that's representing you like having fed your cows on this long journey and stuff. So having that kind of like, I've delivered the cattle, but now I still have one other thing I can do with them, and the timing of like getting to the ships, stuff like that, create just a couple more juicy decisions that are in Great Western Trail.
And then on top of that, there's no hazards anymore. There's no granjeros, which are farmers. And those granjeros, you can help out the granjeros and then bring them onto your side kind of for objective cards, kind of like you did with hazards.
Yeah. They block paths in a similar way where you might have to pay money to pass by them.
But you can also bring them into your employ. You can hire them because to ship off these cows, you're going to need grain. So there's actually now another resource as well that you have to manage. And so those things make it a little bit heavier than Great Western Trail. But Great Western Trail in general is just a heavier game that's just so darn good.
This one and Great Western Trail are 80%, maybe 90% the same in terms of like how actions work are very similar. There's just some extra, again, levers to pull and play with that are really, really fun. So that's why I got the edge here.
They're both really, really good. But we prefer Argentina because it's got a little more going on. We just really like it. It's super, super good. Let's get number 3.
Number 3 is our favorite tea game.
Yes.
This is, and I feel like it's us and Rado every time we talk about this. Agree. This is Twant and Suyu.
Twant and Suyu. Love Twant and Suyu.
This is from Board and Dice. The tea game it refers to, they happen to have, this wasn't really the design. Board and Dice has a bunch of games that are in a the heavier area of Euro gaming that start with the letter T.
Yeah.
Twant and Suyu is one by David Turtsey that is
tough. This game
There's just so many options. And this one is heavy by pure like wealth of opportunities.
Sandbox mode. Yeah.
Sandbox
basically like this is a game where you have a giant board, and this board is this big pyramid with different levels and just symbols
that you're
everywhere. Just all of these symbols. And basically you have these god cards in your hand, and the god cards are going to have those same symbols that are on the board. And when your turn is, you're going to play a god card out, and that's going to have a symbol, and then you can place a color of meeple onto a symbol somewhere. And then depending on where that is, you might need to pay food because you're essentially you're
traveling
over to that part of the pyramid.
At the top. Yeah.
And so you're just left with so many options, and it really breaks your brain just because there's so many different places to go, and then attached to each symbol is going to be 3 different actions. Some of those actions will just be like, get stone, get potatoes, get corn, just get resources, get gold, that kind of stuff. But then some will be other actions like build buildings or get tapestries or go off and like fight and stuff and do all these different things. And so not only are you looking at, okay, I have these god cards, where are the symbols that relate to these god cards? Then you have to look around like, okay, but then what actions do I need to get done? And then are there any of those actions around those symbols so I can do it? But then on top of that, another layer to this is whatever color meeple you put out also matters. Because if you put out a yellow meeple, the yellow meeple, if it's the first meeple on
a certain section of the board
of the kind of big pyramid, then that will get another action. So you get to do essentially a whole nother action. On top of that, if there's a meeple of matching color next to the meeple you place, you'll get another action. So you're also trying to maximize the amount of actions you can do, and it's just, there's so much going on. And then there's like these kind of like complicated like festival scorings at the end of each round. There's just a bananas amount going on, and it works. And when you get into it,
that's what blows my mind.
It's overwhelming. But you kind of just start doing, just start doing stuff. Start doing stuff, and you'll kind of figure out a path. And for me, it's like, it's my favorite tea game by like a pretty wide margin. I absolutely love Twant and Suyu.
I'm right there at Teotihuacan and Twant and Suyu. It's like whatever I've played more recently. Really, but honestly, Twant and Suyu
to me is the heaviest.
Almost magical because you can still play it.
Yes. Because it's so open that it's really overwhelming and it really breaks your brain, but it's absolutely outstanding. It's so good.
The thing that's nice is there's a billion options. However, the god cards you have in your hand will kind of limit the options. So, okay, now I'm looking for this particular squiggle. Yeah. Okay, that's there. What can I do with that? So you're not dealing with the entire board all the time.
Yeah.
You're dealing usually with a certain section and certain symbols.
Yeah.
And so it pares it down enough that you can actually figure out what to do from turn to turn. Yes. I'm not saying this game won't like induce AP in people or anything, but yeah, we love it so much.
It's so good though, but it's heavy. There's a lot going on and it's really, really tough. That's Tawansuyu number 3. Let's get number 2. Number 2 is also kind of a big sandbox.
Yes.
Which can be overwhelming.
It can be.
This is Feast for Odin.
This is Feast for Odin. So this one gets a slight edge over like a Tawansuyu because like it's my favorite game. So that's the rules. That's how the rules of this top.
That's how the rules of my life.
Feast for Odin is absolutely a big worker placement game.
So much going on.
By Uwe Rosenberg, where you have a billion action types. And all of them are, I should say, a lot of them are going to give you different types of tiles, polyomino-shaped tiles that you can kind of put into your supply. You can then upgrade them because there's basically orange, red, and then green and blue, kind of from least valuable to most valuable. Yeah. Orange and red are going to be used for like feeding your people. Then as you get into the green and blue, you can start to put them on your main player board or islands you inhabit or different buildings you get. You can start to place them out onto those places to give you more income, give you bonuses, to cover up the bajillion negative -1 point symbols you have on your board. And you're trying to kind of be as efficient as you can with the workers you have. You're going to have a pool of starting with 6 workers. Then every round you'll get another worker to your pool, another worker to your pool. And different actions you take might take 1 worker. It's going to be a pretty basic, you might get like a tile. But if you spend 2 workers, you have access to now a second column. They're going to be more powerful actions. And then the third and the fourth columns are going to be even more powerful still. However, you have to use a big chunk of your workers to do that.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to not only like how many action spaces do you have available, there's like 60-odd spots, but like how and when do I invest a heavy amount of my workers or do I do a bunch of small actions? And you want to be efficient because you want everything that you do, every action you take, every upgrade you do to be useful, to actually go onto a board, to contribute to either feeding your people, adding on to the incomes and bonuses you get in the game. You don't want to have a bunch of leftover tiles at the end of the game.
You want to be efficient.
That means you spent a bunch of actions for nothing.
Yeah, really.
So you really want to just maximize your time.
As much as you can.
And it's just really fun to play with all the different options. You can get animals, you can breed animals and stuff and get a bunch of points that way. You can go get ships and you can go and do conquering stuff and you basically get these tiles back. It's all abstracted and whatnot with die rolls. You can visit islands and then come in and start putting tiles on top of those islands. And now you have kind of like multiple boards you're working with. There's 1,000,001 options with this game.
Yeah,
and
it's a big sandbox.
They're all viable. They're all fun to play with. And it's just about
do whatever you
what
want.
do I want to do today? You know, and that's why we keep coming back.
I'm gonna be a pig farmer today. I'm gonna get a lot of pigs, and you just can do that.
Why not?
Yeah, it's really fun. But this game is there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of things you can do. But this is kind of like Tawansuyu, where it's so open that it's tough because every single game you have to be like, okay, I have this giant sandbox. What am I going to do? And so it's really, really tough. But man, it's so fun.
Yeah, with Feast for Odin, the main thing we always say, and similar to Tawansuyu, is like just do stuff.
Just do something.
Just do stuff. The game will kind of discover itself to you in time. Like just play around, see how things go. And we always say like you have your player board. Like there's islands and building stuff. Don't worry about it. First play, just try to cover up as much of that your main player board as you can. And if you do that and you manage to get to a 0 or higher on your score, great.
Great job.
Build from there, right?
Yep. It's so good. It's on number 2. It's really, really good. There's one game that's heavier that we like a lot. Let's get into it. Number 1 is going to be War of the Ring, which granted,
I had written Twister because that's
really hard game
to bend
Tough
over
game.
like that.
That's some real talk right there. War of the Rings are number 1. That is, it's also probably like it's one of our favorite games. 2, it's probably the heaviest game that we own.
It's just large, and there's so a lot
many
of
rules.
The card play. This is
a 2-player Lord of the Rings in a box kind of game. It's Lord of the Rings, and one player is playing the Shadow Army, so you're playing like Isengard, Mordor, and then like the Easterlings, and the other player is playing the Free Peoples. You're playing like the Fellowship. You're playing the dwarves, the men of the North, men of Rohan, the elves, that kind of stuff. and you're going against each other, and the Shadow Army is trying to take over, either trying to corrupt the ring bearers or trying to take over enough territory to win the game and score points that way. And the Free Peoples is trying to either destroy the ring or win a military victory, which is nigh impossible.
It's stacked against you. This game does an amazing job of feeling like Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
But kind of like a Lord of the Rings where you can do an alternate history where like Boromir doesn't die and stays in the Fellowship, stuff like that, which is really, really cool.
Him and Legolas and Frodo and Sam, they're the ones who take it to Morgort.
Yeah, so it's really fun to play with that, but also the cards and stuff. This game is, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, fan service throughout, and it's fan service. The art and style feels like the books and stuff. It's not based on the movies or anything like that, which wouldn't have been a problem. But it's like
all screenshots.
Yeah, imagine this like heavy game and just like really poor screenshots.
Some games do it, you know. But
why not? The art's beautiful. And the cards and the flavor text and everything like that, like the certain characters that pop up or certain things that happen in certain locations, like that's what happened in the book, you know, like that's why we made it that way. It's really cool, man.
Yeah,
it's
these
really
big
cool.
tarot-sized cards, and the top card is going to be some kind of action that you'll activate with your dice because you're rolling out dice every round, and that's going to dictate what you can do. So you're also having to adapt constantly, like you do in pretty much any war game. You're adapting what your player's doing, adapting what you got. But then on top of that, the bottom of half of these cards is stuff that will happen in fights. And so every card also, you have to choose, how do you want to use it? Do you want to activate it with a die, and that means it'll go away, or do you want to use it for a battle?
Save it for a key
and there's
moment.
So many different things to do. There's also expansions, which we haven't explored yet. We want to try and explore this year, but there's so much going on. But it's a big, heavy war game, like a 60-page rule book. There's so many rules. But man, it's so good, especially if you love Lord of the Rings. It's just absolutely incredible.
We haven't tried many, to be fair, but we haven't historically been that interested in like those historical war games.
Yes.
But the setting of this one is something that we're really passionate about personally. Like Lord of the Rings is an important story to us.
Yeah.
And so that setting for a war game is, we're like, sign us up. We're in.
Here for it.
It's super fun. It is big. It is heavy. It is epic. It lives up to the scale of what you would expect for Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's why it's so well loved and has been for over these many years in different editions and things like that. All that's left, we got to try some expansion stuff, man.
Yeah, we got to try it. So that is our number one. That is our list of our top 10 heavy games. These are the heavy games that we love the most. Again, over on Patreon, we're going to have another top 10, kind of a supplemental top 10 with 10 more heavy games that we really, really enjoyed. This list was... because we're heavy gamers.
Big time heavy gamers.
We had like a really long list for this one. And so...
we do. And there's more still. Like, we were making the joke about Anachrony. We do have it up here.
Yeah.
I've played it more than Nick. It's been a couple years now.
Yeah.
That game's amazing.
So
and absolutely deserves to be on this list. So this is
then
one we should come back to.
We should. And then we'll probably also do like a top 10 medium games, top 10 light games, because we like really all different kinds of games. And so these just happen to be the heavy ones. Let us know down in the comments below where you agreed, where you didn't agree, that kind of stuff. And I think that's going to be it. A big shout out to our patrons. You can see all our patrons have been running by.
Much.
And
again more lists right now. Indeed. And for other top 10s we've done on our Patreon right now, we ask questions, do kind of behind the scenes stuff. Yep. We'd really appreciate the support if you got a couple bucks and don't mind sending it our way.
Indeed. Until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We'll see the Murph.
Man, nailed that one.
Thank you so much for watching that top 10. We really, really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the other top 10s on the right side of your screen. I want to give a big shout out to Lucky Duck Games, Board Game Geek, and the OG sponsors, Restoration Game, for sponsoring the channel as a whole. I want to give a big shout out to you because y'all very pretty. Y'all very pretty.